What up, y'all? My name is Soliel. I am the owner of Soul Rise Essentials, and today we are back for another episode of Soul Seed Conversations. This is actually episode 17, y'all. We've been going really strong. If you don't know who we are and what we do, let me tell you. But first, the Soul Seed Conversations podcast is a mental wellness podcast where we share stories of resilience, build global community, explore new ways for you to thrive on your healing and wellness journey. So that's what we do. That's why we exist. Now, on the flip side, Soul Rise Essentials, what we do is we offer affirmation and mental wellness apparel for the entire family. We're located in Richmond, Virginia, USA, and we're going global soon. I see y'all joining me already. We're actually live on 2 different platforms. I got my friends on TikTok who always get the behind the scenes before we start the podcast. So if y'all want to see the bloopers and all of that stuff and what I do to prep and what it looks like before I hit start, y'all got to follow us on TikTok for that. So y'all share this video. We are going to go live in just a few minutes. I always come on a little bit early to chat with y'all, see how y'all are doing, give you some updates, and we invite our guests to join the Soul Seat. So today we actually have Theresa Headen. She is local here in Richmond, Virginia, and we actually happen to be friends. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast today. We're going to get into her business a little bit, share her resilient story. I don't want to give it away, so I'm just going to stop there. But let me say what's up to y'all in the comments. And again, go ahead and share this live with some people. If you are watching the replay, comment down below and put hashtag replay with some sunshine emoji so we can know that you're part of the replay family. Also, you can shop our affirmation merch anytime at soulriseessentials.com. If you're wondering how to spell that, it is right behind me. SOL Rise Essentials. What's up, Dinner Party Conversations? Cortez. What's up, Gordon? Just something I ate. What's up? I see Teresa's here already. We're going to pull you in a few minutes. I'm going to take some time as well as you all to share this video with a couple people. What's up, Tatiana girl? Hey, boo. Thank you for joining us. So give me a second, y'all. Go ahead and tag some folk, and I'm going to tag some folk as well so we can get some people in the party. And I got some updates for y'all too. And then we'll get started. I'm just clicking everybody and they mama child. What's good, Gordon? Happy New Year to you. I know we like 2 months in, but still. All right, what else do I want to tell y'all? So, okay, I don't know if I mentioned this, but if you go to our website, there'll be a pop-up that pops up for text messages and also for emails. And if you sign up for those, you'll get 15% off, okay? So you definitely want to do that. And then you also get first dibs on when we release new merch. We send y'all love letters. We send y'all new releases. We get your update. I mean, we get feedback from y'all about like new drops that we're having. So you want to be a part of that VIP Soul Tribe experience, all right? So definitely do that. Let's see. If you have a story, a resilient story that you want to share, we would love to hear it. Okay. We just want to make sure it's a good fit for the podcast. All you have to do is email us at mystory@Soul Rise Essentials. I already told TikTok this, okay? And I told TikTok if they want to see both me and our guests, they got to come on over here. So if y'all see me looking over here, if y'all see me looking over there, it's only because I'm like trying to pay attention to 2 screens at the same time. But look, okay, thank y'all for the follows over here. If y'all want to see me and the guests versus just hear me and our guests, come on over to Instagram. So what's up, Ma? I see my mama and my sister is up in here. Hey, y'all. Oh, y'all can't hear me. Y'all been listening to me the whole time? Maybe it might be yours, because I think Gordon just responded to me. Hey, y'all let me know. Can y'all still hear me? I think that's my mama's phone, y'all. We're going to get started in just a second. As soon as y'all let me know. Okay. All right. It's my mama's phone. Somebody tell my mama to get her phone together. Scaring me like that. I see somebody else just joined us. What's going on, y'all? So I do want to say, because this is a mental wellness podcast and we touch on some very deep topics at times, I always like to start this off by giving you all a trigger warning. There will be some things that may be uncomfortable for you to hear, that may trigger you because of your own journey, and we understand that. And we just want to let you know, like if some point things are shared here that make you uncomfortable, kind of trigger you a little bit, just, you can click off and come back at another time. I appreciate that. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. See y'all in the comments. Just want to make that clear. And then also, Now, we do have some professionals that have come on here that are therapists that have letters behind their names. But today, myself and my guests, we are not clinicians. We are not professionals. So if there's something that you hear today that sounds like a suggestion, take it as that. But it's not like really advice. How can I say that a little better? It's not advice. We're just telling our lived experiences as thrivers, okay? Just want to put that out there. But you will be inspired as always. This podcast has been very, very moving, very, very impactful. And just the messages that we get, from people that watch in the Soul Tribe family about the stories that people have shared just has been so amazing. So let me make sure those are all my announcements, and then we're going to get Theresa up in here. Before we do that, this is something new that we started to do. Let's have a mindful minute, y'all, because I talk so much. I was just on here. I was just on my Facebook page. So I'm going to have a mindful minute for myself, and then you guys are also going to do it with me, okay? So we're just going to take a minute and do some deep breaths, and we'll bring our guest in to sit in the soul seat. Y'all ready? All right, let's do it. Whatever you want to do. So what I do is I breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and I blow out for 4. All right, let's get it. All right, I did that a little fast because I had already done some before I got on. But just to let y'all know that this mindful moment is definitely going to be something I incorporate. I feel so relaxed. Theresa says it's not medical advice. Exactly. What's up, Fobs Quality Signs? Thank y'all for joining me. All right, y'all. So we did our mindful minute. Let's welcome our guest in. Thank you, Chef Cortez. He said he likes the mindful moment. Thanks, guys. I'm glad that you guys like that. All right, so let me get Theresa on up in here. I'm super excited. I'm going to invite you right now. What's up, Katrina? Chef Katrina.
You can hear me?
I sure can. How are you, darling?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. What kind of shirt you got on today?
My elegant Cuizines shirt.
I thought it was the Pack Light shirt. I was going to say.
But I got my soul rise necklace, okay?
Yes.
I travel with it.
I know, and I love it, as you always do. Thank you for always representing and showing us love. We're going to talk more about Elegant Cuizines in just a minute. But I wanted to ask you, how are you and how is your mental health today?
My mental health is actually well today. I feel like this has been an exciting week. It felt a little overwhelming in the beginning because we're doing something new, but it's actually really good today. I usually, I try to do this thing in the morning where I wake up and I look for what I'm going to be grateful for as opposed to what I'm going to complain about. And I feel like that's really helped me to have like really good days.
I love that. I love that. I just want to check with everybody in the audience. Can you guys hear her? I just want to double check sound because it's a little low on my end. I'm going to say hey to some folks in the Soul Tribe. Hey, Cleopatra Jones. Cleopatra, I think I said that right. Nia, hey. Danny, hey. It's so many chefs. So we got
hey,
chefs.
Katrina.
We have you, we have Cortez, and then we have Katrina. I love that. What's up, Hearts to Steel? Katrina says, I'm so proud of you, Chef T.
Thank you.
And then we have Tatiana, your baby, one of your baby girls watching today. All right, so I just want to make sure they can hear you. TikTok, can y'all hear our guests as well? Maybe it's just my ears, Theresa?
I'm going to do my best to project because we want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Okay, and you know what? My phone was down a little bit too, so I just turned you up. All right, perfect. Okay, well, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, so my name is Theresa Headen. I like to say I'm a child of God, and I use that differently, I think, than a lot of people. I felt like growing up, I really didn't have like a sense of family. And so I felt like to survive this earth, I had to find something to be a child of. And so I was like, I'm a child of God, and that's going to represent. I didn't realize how much it will travel with me, but it did. I'm a chef. I own my own restaurant now. I am a mom. I have 2 beautiful girls. I'm a wife to my amazing husband. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I like to consider myself a safe space for a lot of women. And I'm just, I'm goofy. I feel like a lot of people don't get to see my goofy side. They usually think, oh, she's so serious. I'm like, yes, until you sit there and really get to know me, you're going to realize I'm goofy. I like to have a good time. I'm just really silly. I just like to have fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because like I shared earlier, is that I know you. So I know that some people see different versions of you, and some of this stuff I already know. So I can attest to you being a sister. Like, we're sisters now. I can attest to you being a great wife, a great mother, all of that stuff. But I appreciate you sharing like your perspective of what it means to be a child of God. So the reason why you adopted that title, I want to talk to you more about that, because you shared you needed family, and you needed something to attach yourself to. So that's what I want to really get into in terms of your story. I tell people all the time, whether you guys know Theresa or not, and they said, and a mentor as well. Y'all go see.
Yes.
She is. I mean, Theresa is so many things, and we happen to share the same zodiac sign. I know a lot of people may not get into that too deep, but I think it matters just a little bit that we are both Aries, so I understand her on that level too. So I'm going to talk to you as if I don't know you. Of course, I'll share some little tidbits that that I can attest to. But when you see people successful and shining in their purpose and being somebody that a lot of people look up to, I like to share stories behind the scenes of those people, so people can get to know more about you on a deeper level, because sometimes people can see, quote unquote, what they view as success, but they don't know about the blood and the sweat and the tears that go into how you got there. So I really want to take it back all the way to, young Theresa. Before you answer that question, let me read a couple of these comments, and we appreciate you all for being engaged. Shout out to the Soul Tribe family. So we said, Chef Cortez is congratulating you on opening your restaurant.
Thank you.
Chef Katrina says, and a mentor. Don't forget that. Absolutely. My mom says, hello, Chef. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on the opening of your restaurant.
Thank you.
My mama said, I still can't hear anything. Somebody type in the comments. Tell my mama to log out and log back in and turn her phone off silent.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My twin sister, Tajay, she said, okay, Chef Headen, tell your story, a beautiful experience.
Hey.
I love that. I love that. So let's get into it, because the people watching may hear an accent. So where are you from?
I'm from West Africa, Monrovia, Liberia. And I have to say Liberia because sometimes people will say, oh, are you from Nigeria? I'm like, no, I definitely said L. Or are you from Libya? I'm like, no, that's another African country. So Liberia, West Africa.
Okay, so you're in the States now, right? So you are considered an immigrant.
An immigrant who is an American citizen by way of naturalization.
What does that mean? Lord have mercy. Teach the people.
So naturalization is a process that you once you come to the state, you have to stay in the state for a couple of years. I think about 5 years. You have to stay in the state for about 5 years without leaving. So like if we couldn't go back to our country. Then after 5 years, you'll file these documents saying that you want to be a U.S. citizen. And so with that, you have to take a test. I feel like it's a test that even some Americans probably don't even know, but I guess you have to prove that you're going to be an American citizen. So you have to learn things like who was the first president, like these different kind of things. And then you have to pass the test. You have to get an 80 or above.
Oh, wow.
In order for you to pass, be considered a pass for you to get that naturalization form. And if you don't pass, you're going to have to try it again in another 5 years.
I had no idea. So is this something that... It makes sense. I get it. Is it something that children have to do as well? Because how old were you when you moved here?
So children can't do it when they're under a certain age, but you have to take the test. Once you're 18, you can take the test. So you can decide when you want to take the test, and then you'll get your naturalization form. So we came here at a very young age. My sisters and my mom was already here. And so then you will get your naturalization form. Like I was literally just telling my sister, I need to change my picture on here because I look crazy.
Yeah. So you said you were 8 when you moved to the States, right? Okay. Yeah. So I'm really interested in this process, actually, because I know people that are, of course, not from the States, but I don't think I've ever talked to them about like their process, what the documentation look like. So this is news to me. So y'all, if y'all have any questions, want to know more about that, specific questions, definitely drop it in the comments so we can learn together. But I want to know, like, what was it like in Africa? Because, as Americans, we see so many different so much imagery about what it's supposed to be like over there. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about that, if you can remember, because I moved to Virginia when I was 8 as well. So I know I actually have some memories, but some memories I don't have. So talk to me about what is life like in Liberia and in your tribe too. Tell us about your tribe.
I feel like Liberia is so beautiful now. Of course, due to the war, like a lot of things are not as they used to be. And that was one of the reasons why we moved over here, was due to the civil war that my country was fighting. But Liberia is super beautiful. You get like 2 seasons, so you don't have to worry about the winter or the fall. You just get rainy and dry season, right? And growing up, we typically in my country, you grow up with like family homes. So you'll have maybe like an aunt and her family, and then you'll have like another aunt and her family, but everybody's living in the same house. So your cousins are your friends. So you don't really have a need to go out and really like try to seek friends or friendship. And so if those things happen, it just have to happen like organically. And so I feel like we like growing. So I'm from 2 different tribes in my country. So here y'all will consider it like a mixed baby or whatever, right? So my mom is Kru, and then my dad is something called Gisi. And so those 2 different tribes, normally in my country too, it's like here, sometimes it's hard for 2 different races to date. 2 different tribes are not really supposed to date. You want to date within your tribe. And so for that reason, it was kind of like a taboo for my mom to have a baby, and especially at a young age with this man who was not of her tribe.
Wow. I just learned a lot. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to scroll up and read some comments so I don't get them too out of whack. So Mo, what's up, Mo? He said,
"Hey, Mo."
So we got so many people that cook in here. This is crazy. Miss TJM, what's up? Flavor of Life. Hey, is that Kai?
Hey, girl.
What's going on? So Broken Men Foundation, what's up? Mr. Ellery, he says 8 is in biblical, represents a new beginning. Wow.
Yeah, it is. Because 7 is the number of completion.
I love that. And then, you know, since Chef T and I have talked so much, you know, when you told me you moved here when you were 8, I moved here when I was 8, and what Mr. Ellery just shared, like, I think we did get a new beginning, because there's so much about my story that I think would be different had I stayed where I was. And for you, the things that you're going to share with us, can you attest to that as well?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I definitely think it was a new beginning. I mean, probably in my younger self, I couldn't tell myself that it was a new beginning. But I feel like as an adult woman, I can definitely be, okay, I can see how that was a new beginning.
Yeah. Okay, so that was life in Liberia. Is there anything else that you want to share that, you know, you think us Americans would find interesting about like your culture?
No. Okay, so to come over here, we play this thing called the lottery. It's called the DV. That's like the abbreviation for it. And with that lottery, if you win, is how you get to come over here. So my mom happened to play the lottery, like over hundreds of people play. It's like if you play in the lottery to win the mega million or whatever, it's like a 0 to 1 chance that you're gonna win, right? And then my mom happened to win. And so when she won, we was like, oh yeah, we're coming to America. But then we found out, just like anything in life, the process was not as easy as we thought it would be, right? And so my mom had to come ahead of us. And so then when she came, the church that we went to at the time, they paid for my sisters and I to come.
Wow. So how long was your mom here before y'all came over?
I think my mom was here maybe like 6 months. Our visa was literally about to expire in like 2 weeks. So that meant if it expired, my sisters and I would not come into the States, and my mom would have had to become a citizen before she can reapply for us, right? And so the church that she was going to, she's just one of those people who was just always faithful in church. And that's how I know, like he said, the new beginning, that's how I know it was God, you know, because the pastor was new to the church. And he asked her, like, what can I do for you? Because you're always doing so much. And my mom being very prideful, like a lot of Africans are, that was something that we knew she would probably never do, but she did it anyway. She told him, like, all I need is for my children to get here.
That's
and
it.
I don't have the means for them to get here. Yeah. And so the pastor was like, I will take care of it. Like, you would pay nothing. Wow. I will buy their tickets. I will do all of it.
Wow. That's crazy. Thank you for sharing that. That's kind of blowing my mind right now. You know, we take a lot for granted, you know, over here as Americans. So I love that you shared that story. So fast forward to being in the States. So how did life change? Was it like a culture shock for you? Talk to us about
that. It was a culture shock for us, I think, because we were excited to be in the States. And I always, like, she's not on here, but I always tribute my love. Because at first I didn't think I was going to like Black Americans, and that's just being very honest. But I always attribute my love to Black Americans, especially Black American women, to this girl named Taryn. When I tell you she was the sweetest Black American to me, her mom was on here earlier. Like, she made me feel so welcome. She wanted to know everything about me. She used to be like, Theresa, tell me about Africa. Like, tell me about this. While other people were saying like weird things to us, like, you know, did y'all wear clothes back home? I'm like, no, we walk around naked. Like, of course we wear clothes back home. Like, what? Like, Africa is not what you are envisioning. Africa is very beautiful. The people are very educated. They're very articulate. So don't believe just a picture. You know what I'm saying? You have to go there to really understand the depth of Africa. And so it was definitely a culture shock for us. But I feel like because I have such a big mouth, I was probably the one, and my younger sister always getting in trouble at school because we were saying things that we shouldn't be saying. Like, if people said something to us that we felt like was inappropriate, we was going to say something back to them that we knew would be inappropriate.
Yeah. You ain't have no fear. That's the Aries. So Chef Katrina says, are you still connected with that church?
Yes. So St. Paul Catholic Church, you know, I always tell people, I don't care what you got to say about Catholic Church, baby, but just don't say it to me, because they have been good to us, right? The priest even married Charles and I when we got married almost 11 years ago. And I think he just passed last year at the end of the year. We went to his funeral, my sister and I. So yeah, he came to that church specifically. God sent him there for us.
Wow.
And so that's, you know, yeah, so we are definitely still connected. Whenever they need me to do anything, I drop what I'm doing. If I can do it, I get there and I do it. So yeah.
That was a church that your mom found when she came to the States. Wow.
Yeah, so my mom, when she came to the States, that was the church that she was going to and just worshiping there. Yeah, because we grew up Catholic in my country, even though people don't think Catholics are in Africa, they are.
Wow, I'm learning so much. Wow,
we have Catholic churches in Africa. One of my uncles is a priest. Like, we grew up Catholic. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. Latoya says, yes, amazing story. Broken Men Foundation says, awesome, amazing. Somebody said, all right now. We appreciate it. So let's fast forward. So I know that after you came to the States, you went to, wait, did you guys land in Virginia or did you land in another state?
No, we landed in Virginia. Okay. So when we came to the States, we were going to Florida. That's where my mom brother lived. And so he was the one who was, so when you come and you have a sponsor, he was the one who was supposed to sponsor us, but for whatever reason he couldn't. And the ironic thing is, at the time my uncle owned a restaurant, so he had to put on there that my mom would work at his restaurant, because when you play those lottery, one of the questions on there is that when you come to the States, you cannot ask them for any kind of government assistance. So you need to come and have a job to be able to take care of yourself. So my uncle in Florida is where we was going at the time, but whatever happened, we weren't meant to go there, because had my mom gone to Florida, we wouldn't be here, because the priest that God was sending, he sent to Richmond, right? So had my mom gone to Florida, my sisters and I will probably still be in Liberia, because it didn't matter if she became a citizen. Life was always going to be in the way in some way, but God's intent was for us to get here the time that we got here. And so when we could not go to Florida, my uncle, who lives in Lawrenceville, Virginia at the time, he came to the States when he was super young and just stayed and got married to an American. So I think me and him did the same thing. Yeah. and so he was the one who ended up doing the sponsorship. So that brought us to Virginia.
Got it. Okay. So I know that you eventually ended up going to college, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm asking you these questions because for me, I don't think people realize like how, I don't want to use the word traumatic, but I'm going to put it there for just a second. I'm going to put a pin in that. Like these big moves, you know, when people hear the word trauma or change, like they think about really major things. But like for me, at 8 years old, picking up everything and not really understanding, leaving one state, going to another state, you know, my family is all the way over here. I don't really get to see them in the physical as much anymore. Like that's a big change, and it changes your brain a little bit. So you know, the topic of our podcast is, of course, mental wellness, but how resiliency plays out in your life. So can you talk about like what resilience has looked like moving from a whole nother country? Your family is like thousands of miles away. And then also going to college, because last episode we talked about, we had a lady on here that shared her story about living with schizophrenia and how when a lot of kids get to college, sometimes if they already are predispositioned to go through any mental health things, that it can kind of happen when they move away from their parents. You know, why? Because that's a big change. So I'm bringing that up because you've had some major changes in your life. So speak to how resiliency and even if any mental things have come about because of those changes.
Yeah, and I think for me, like to be like very transparent, like when I think about, so growing up in my country, I was dealing with sexual abuse in my home, right? And so I would probably be the one who would have said, I don't want to go to the States because my abuser was my mom's husband and he was in the States. So that would make me say, I don't want to go to the States. But it was, when I think about my life now, it was bigger than me, right? And so I was not coming out here to cry.
It's all right, girl. Let it out. We honor all emotions over here.
All right. So when I think about my life now, it's bigger than me, right? And so if you're getting abused in a country, a whole other country, and your abuser are no longer there, you're free technically, right? So why would you want to come where your abuser is? I feel like that's how somebody would probably look at that. But as a younger person, you're just thinking, my country is not safe, right? My sisters, we're not safe. And at the time we grew up where our cousins were saying things like, oh, your mom is not going to send for you. You guys are going to be here. You're going to be our slave. We're going to be working, y'all. So we were like, Lord, we got to get out of here. You know, I knew what I was coming to was no better, but I knew what I was at was no better, right? And so when I came here, a lot of people always saw me as happy, but they never knew that I was dealing with so much other trash, right? And so a lot of times people would be like, oh, Theresa, you're always so happy. I had to find my happiness in the fact that I said, I am a child of God. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And so that was like, so that was a part of my trauma, right? And so then I get to high school, and even there, I was going through trauma, right? At that time, my abuse had stopped because I think when I turned like 15 or 16, I was like, this can no longer happen to me, right? So I started sleeping with a knife under my bed, like I'm going to kill someone if I need to, right? So then I had to have the conversation with my mom. And so even though I felt like my mom already had her suspicions, she knew I'm a mom. And if anybody was hurting my daughters, I would know instantly, right? I feel like because of that situation, God made me an empath. Like I can feel what people are feeling. I can tell when someone is hurt. I can tell when someone's been abused. Like you don't have to tell me your story. I can look at you and instantly be like, oh my God, you know, this person. So that's why usually with me, when I see people doing things out of character, I try to look beyond the person and see like why you're doing what you're doing, because I know it's bigger than what's happening out of character. And so I went to high school and people were like, you know, you're always so happy. And I'm like, people always tell me I'm happy, but if they only knew how many nights I got to go home and cry and sleep with my door locked and try to worry about my sisters, right? Because when abuse happens to one person, it's happening to everyone in your family. Whether it's happening to them physically or whether it's happening to them mentally, it's still happening to everyone in your family. And so when I got to college, I was excited. I didn't really apply to xual. I never knew what a xual was. I got this letter in the mail saying, would you like to come for orientation?
I used to get letters for xual too.
Because my choice was to either stay here and go to like a community college and work, so that way I can get my own place, because I really wanted to get out of the house. Even though my abuse wasn't physically happening to me anymore, it wasn't fair for me to continue to be in the same space as my abuser, right? And a lot of time in African culture, we're not allowed to discuss those things. Like, and I know that happens here in Black American culture too, but we're not allowed to say, this is inappropriate, this is wrong, this person has violated me, I shouldn't have to be forced to be around this person. So I wanted so badly to just have my own space. I wanted to be a grown-up so fast. Like I wanted to grow up really fast so I can have my own whatever that was, right? Yeah. And so I use that when xual sent a letter, I'm like, okay, maybe this is God. I can now go to, you know, it's in North Carolina. I can go to North Carolina. I went and visited, and I got there, and I was like, okay, I like the orientation. It's, you know, I like the people I met. So I was like, okay, fine, I will come. They gave me scholarship to go there. I went there, and then my everything that I've been suppressing was like, okay, we're coming back up now.
Pause. Let's pause real quick. Because I'm over here, I had to stop myself from crying. I'm still trying to like deal with those emotions. First of all, thank you for sharing everything that you shared. I wanted to read a couple comments because I think when I said something, Tatiana, your daughter, she agreed with something that I said. Tatiana, if you're still here, put it in the comments. First, I'm gonna read a message from Tasha. She says, "What's meant to be will be." Absolutely. I think she was saying it in relation to the pastor, the priest that you were talking about. Tatiana, when I was talking about like when children move away, teenagers, young adults move away, you know, it impacts them, whether we
Yeah.
parents or whether the children realize it or not. And I think Tati was agreeing with that. So talk to me more about that in the comments. She said definitely does. I totally agree with that. I don't think that it's something that we discuss as a community enough.
Yeah.
You know, and of course you check on your child because you're missing your baby too. You letting your baby out there to the world for the first time. So it's a big adjustment for the parents too. And we think we're checking on our children, you know, how's it going? How's the food? How are your friends? Just stay safe. Don't do this. Don't do that. But also, like you said, just being in tune with your children and checking in and watching for things that they don't tell you, you know, because they may be dealing with some stuff and not even know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
And this is something that we're going to talk about later, having language, discovering language for the things that we feel, the things that we've been through. Okay, maybe you had a mental health illness and a mental illness you don't even know because you find more resources and language to put to what you are going through. Because even with me, when I was having like panic attacks and stuff like that, I didn't know what was going on. So I started to research and then I found language. And what I told myself is, you're not going crazy. You're not broken.
Yeah.
You're not this. It made me I normalized myself and what I was going through because of the language. So I'm bringing that up to put awareness out there. You know, when your children are going through, young adults are going through major changes, check in and listen for what they're not saying as well, because that is where, you know, with college, it's where they're out for the first time. They're meeting a lot of new people, hearing ideals and seeing certain things that they've never seen before because they ain't seen it in your house, ain't heard it in your house. You know, so they're dealing with a lot of peer pressure, newness, change. So you got to check in on them. And a lot of students on campus are having mental health breakdowns. And this ain't nothing new. This was pre-pandemic as well, you know, so check in and just be mindful that kids that are predispositioned and kids that are not, but kids that have been through certain traumas and changes do have mental health episodes on campus. So I just want to take time to, you know, put that out there. And also, let's see. Hey, Markeisha, she said, what's up? Hey, girl. Hey, ladies. Tasha says, woo, thank you for sharing your story. And Katrina says, thank you for your transparency. Hey, Ashley, she leaving us some hearts and love in the comments. Thank y'all. Why is there so many chefs up in here, girl? You know everybody. Chef J Dub, Janique. Yeah, so Tati said she was agreeing with the thing about change, especially moving away to things that are new, is something that is completely different, having to wrap your mind around the differences. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And one thing I appreciate about this platform too is that we have different age ranges that watch and that comment. Last month, the lady was sharing, I was saying the lady, Jordan, was sharing her experience about living with schizophrenia. And my mom had so many questions. And my mom's friend, Beth, had so many questions. These are women in their 50s that had never heard anybody with a mental illness speak in such a way that Jordan did, just so brave and going into detail. So I love that about this podcast, you know, that we can share ideas and there's really no hierarchy in terms of what you know and what you can share because of how old you are. So thank you, Tati, for engaging in the conversation. Also, we're going to go back to where we put a pause in, because that was a lot that you shared. And I'm glad that you spoke in the way that you did, because again, not many people realize like what you might be going through. You know, you done left a whole country, you done came, you know, to another state, you were being abused as a child. So that, you know, is changing some things in your brain. You haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about it, but you showing up as your normal self, which is, I'm just a happy person, but you're not faking the funk. It's just who you are. And, you know, people see that and see the surface and had no clue, you know, what you were going through. So I appreciate you sharing that. What was I going to ask you in relation to that? Oh, how were you able, and I think I may know the answer because it's kind of in line with what I just said, but how were you able to not break down on campus, you know, because of the thing that you were kind of keeping close to yourself? How were you able to get through class and make friends and stuff like that with that abuse being something that you endured for a while?
So I always say like, so in college, I felt like, you know, I definitely was a party person. My friends and I would drink very heavily. Like we would just party a lot because those things kept me numb, right? But then we will also definitely, like I would party on Saturday, but baby, I was in church on Sunday because I knew I needed a word, right? So I was trying to do both. I was trying to play with God, and that was not, I knew it wasn't going to work for so long, because when my friends were not around and I was in my quiet moment, everything that I was dealing with was louder than my partying, or trying to get a little bit of what I consider getting the word, without me really digging into the word or really reading the Bible for myself. So I'm like here and there at the same time, right? So I felt like that was what kind of kept me from not like breaking down. I wasn't super nice. I would consider myself, I was a mean girl. Like I consider that a toxic behavior that I feel like a lot of people don't want to ever be honest about the part that they play when it comes to being toxic in other people's lives. And I was definitely a mean girl. Like I was like, you can't come at me crazy because I'm gonna come at, like I feel like, and it might be an Aries thing. Like, I feel like I'm gonna go after you to sting you. Like you might do a little bit to me, but I'm gonna do a whole lot worse than what you can do to me, right? And so, so I'm gonna try to burn you, right? And so that's how I was balancing. And the church that I went to in North Carolina, so like I said, we grew up Catholic. So North Carolina was the first I ever went to a church that was not Catholic church, and I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going back to Catholic church. Because the Catholic church in Africa, I could stay at. We played music like they play in the Baptist church. The Catholic church in America is not the same, right? And so when I went to this church, I got really close to the pastor. Like, you know, like she took me like I was one of her own. And she recognized, and she was like, Theresa, you are depressed. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm depressed, pastor. You're not a therapist. How you gonna tell me I'm depressed? I'm like, don't you see me happy? Don't you see me come here every day happy? Don't you see me sing on the choir with your people there? Like, I'm not depressed. And she was like, no, you are. She was saying, if you're not, there is a sadness that I can see beyond what other people are looking at. And I need you to just talk to someone. Just find someone to talk to who's clinically professional that can kind of help you figure out what the sadness is about. She was like, because if there, you know, I didn't tell her like what had happened in my life and those different kind of things, but she knew there was something there. So I was like, okay, well, if you're seeing it, maybe other people are going to eventually, they're going to catch up to the fact that I'm just playing the game.
And that's powerful too, because you know how a lot of people, especially folks outside of the church and people inside the church too, they say things like, you know, the church doesn't touch on mental health enough, like Jesus is not enough and all of that stuff. So I feel like it's powerful to hear you say your pastor saw that. She called you out and told you to go get you some therapy. So you can have both. And I love that. I personally have never heard that. I remember going to a pastor so depressed and I tried to tell him how I was feeling. Poor thing, he couldn't connect to it, you know, and he prayed for me for like a hot second, and he was so uncomfortable that I was coming to him with such raw emotion that he didn't know how to handle it. So kudos to that pastor. Keep going.
Yeah. And so once she told me that, I knew I had to get help. So then I reached out to a therapist, so I got help, right? Or started getting help. My biggest thing for her was that I'm like, I don't want you putting me on medication. You, like, people who know me know I don't take medicine, right? My family, when we get sick, I'm over here creating natural medicine. So that was my first thing to her. I'm like, I don't want you to diagnose me where you feel like, okay, Theresa, for you to be happy, you need medication. I'm like, because honestly, I'm a naturally joyful person. I'm not just happy. Joy and happiness are two different things. I'm a joyful person. So the issue that I'm dealing with, you can help me resolve these things that happen to me understanding why it happened to me not blaming myself in a victim space, me not taking somebody else's responsibility on, maybe I can come through, right? Like she would do weird things like hypnosis, and those had to make me go back to places I didn't want to go.
Wow.
Right. And and so I had to like face things I didn't want to face. I had to be honest about the fact that I was getting abused since I was 6. And I had to say that out loud. And I was like, wait a second, I don't want to say this out loud. You know, I don't want to have to say it, but she kept reminding me, if you don't say this out loud, Theresa, you're never going to be free. Like your abuser is always going to have the power. You need to say out loud what has happened to you, and you need to not be afraid of your abuser, because if anything, I can tell you, your abuser is weak. The only power your abuser had on you was this. And if you can take that back, you are going to be so much more powerful. And when she helped me realize that, because the abuse made me, I put myself in so many bad abusive situations, even in friendships. I felt like people were abusing me because they wanted things from me, right? Or in a relationship. And so I'm like, so I've been abused sexually, and I'm allowing myself to keep getting abused in different situations because I only know a language of abuse. I didn't know another language, right? So for somebody to love me, I felt like they had to abuse me, whether it was financially, whether it was like verbally, I felt like that it had to happen that way for me to understand, oh, they must love me, because my abuser used to tell us that he loved us as children, and yet you are abusing me. So, okay, this is what love looks like.
Yeah. Wow. That was a lot, a whole lot. Thank you for sharing. I don't even know where to start. Wow, you said something really powerful, and I want to ask you to say something to people watching. So, because like you said, you're a naturally joyful person, and I know some people, men and women, that have been abused, and it's something really hard and tough to get over. And if you don't speak it, like you said, it's gonna live with you in a different way than what it can if you don't start the healing process. So, what can you say to people that have been in your situation and are trying to move through what's happened to them and that haven't gotten any professional help yet?
I always tell people I'm an advocate for therapy, but I'm also always like, what are you going to do when you get the therapy, right? Because I feel like a lot of time people get there and want the therapist to do the job for them. The therapist can't do the job for you, right? My therapist didn't do the job for me. She gave me necessary tools to work on things, right? She allowed me to, I feel like had I not gone to therapy, my marriage that I have now wouldn't be as healthy as it is, right? Because my therapist helped me to have a conversation with my husband immediately when I started dating him, right? That I need to tell you something that is not who I am, but this is something that happened to me. And so if you touch me a certain way, I might be triggered because I'm still on my healing journey, right? If you hug me or you try to hold my hand too much, I might be triggered. So I had to make sure I had that conversation with my husband, right? And the one blessing was that Charles was so understanding. Like he was so like, okay, I understand, right? Let me know when I'm making you feel uncomfortable. That was like something we did all the time. So whenever I felt uncomfortable in any situation, I would tell him I feel uncomfortable, and he would say, okay, let me know that I feel uncomfortable or whatever, right? And so I feel like somebody who might have gone through or is going through, right, definitely get therapy, because the therapy is going to help you put things in perspective, but it's also going to help you understand that when you can say out loud, you know, this happened to me. And even if you can say it to a room full of people, I used to stand in the mirror and be like, I was sexually abused and it was not my fault. Because that was something my therapist wanted me to recognize. You were a kid. You could not tell an adult what to do in that situation, right? You did not give consent. You did not want, no matter what your body might have done, if you were abused, because sometimes, you know, people's body will feel them if they get abused. So they feel like, well, maybe I'm participating. No, you're not. Your body and what's happening with your spirit and your flesh are two different things, right? And so that would be something I would definitely get the help, right? Like, don't feel like ashamed to get the help. Don't feel like, okay, if I go to therapy, that means something is automatically wrong with me, you know? Because guess what? Something is wrong with you. Somebody violated you and you're broken in certain areas. And in order for those areas to be whole, you have to admit that, heck, something's wrong with me.
Explain what you mean by you're broken. I just want to make sure people understand what you mean.
So you're broken in the sense that you're not your whole self. I was.
Hold on, your sound went out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. I was not my whole self when I was dealing with so how do I put it? When I was pretending, I'm a joyful person, like I said, naturally. But when I was pretending to be happy, I wasn't my whole self, right? So I wasn't showing up as Theresa. Now when I show up, you're going to get Theresa Headen every single time. Whether you like her or dislike her, this is who you're going to get. When I was broken, everybody in my life was getting a different version of me. My church family at the time was getting somebody who was in there shouting and faking and fake catching the spirit, and I can be honest about that. My party friends was getting me who just really want to go out and drink all the time, even though I really didn't want to, but I knew those things would help me numb. So it was like I was giving people little bits and pieces of what I felt like they needed from me and what I also felt like I needed from them. So I wasn't showing up as my whole self. So it's not a negative thing to say, because I feel like sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to be called broken. Yeah. Okay, and I get that. But in order for you to be whole, the parts that are broken are still there. It's like little holes in there. And until you fill those things up with what it needs to be filled up with, then it's technically still broken.
Yeah. And when you learn to speak to your whole person and not just the part of you that was abused. And I'm saying that from experience, you know, not personal experience, but from conversations I've had with friends that have been in the same boat. You know, sometimes you walk around with like an emptiness and you still look at yourself as that same person, but it's like that's just something that happened.
Yeah.
So you have to work on like speaking to you as that whole person before that incident happened, because you are whole. You can be whole and you're not what happened to you. So I appreciate you sharing that, because people, you know, have identity issues sometimes because of that. And I for one just want people to see themselves as that whole version of them. And you have to do a little bit of work to get through that, and that's with anything. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to read a comment from Mama Janie. She says, "This is so great. Thank you, Chef. Sending you hugs. Looking forward to visiting your restaurant." Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, you said some things, honey. You said hypnosis. You ain't just gonna slide past that, because I want to talk about that. You know, we all have seen movies with like a hypnosis episode and people clucking like a chicken and stuff like that. And I need to know, you know, what was that process like? And talk to me about that.
She didn't make me cluck like a chicken. Her idea was to take me to places that I didn't want to go. So if I told her at 2, like, even though not 2, so I'll use my real number. So at 6, I felt like this was happening to me, right? But I don't have all the details of what was happening to me. She wanted to make sure, because what my therapist kept saying to me was that in order for you to walk away from this situation, Theresa, you need to put every detail together. And it's the detail that are going to help you to, it's like if you're completing the puzzle. I can't finish the puzzle if there's a missing piece. I'm going to have to find a missing piece for the puzzle to make sense. So in order for me to understand, so this abuse was happening to me when I was 6, right? Even to my mom, when I said my mom knew, there's a point where my therapist put me under hypnosis and my mom comes into the room and basically knew what was happening. And she asked me, what's happening? You know, this, not even so much what happened. She said to me, I know what's happening. So you're going to have to, growing up in my country, we all slept in one room. I feel like that's another recipe for abuse and disaster, right? So your mom is in the room, the dad is in the room, the sisters are in the room. And that was due to the war too, right? So because of the war, all the family was living in the same house. So each family shares a room. So the mom, the dad, the sister, everybody's in the same bed, right? Right? And so here you have young.
You would think if you guys
are
in the same room, like how would that?
You would think, but my mom, like I'm saying, she knew, right? Because even in my adolescence, like I said, I started getting older. The reason why I knew my mom alone, it took me a long time for me and her to have like a relationship like we do now, right? Because she will always say weird things to me, like 2 women can't live in the same house. I'm like, girl, I'm 16. Like, why are you telling me 2 women can't live in the same house, right? So I knew she knew always back then. But for her, it was as if to say, after doing my own research, finding out that all the women in my family before me had been sexually abused by men in my family, I had to say this would never happen to my daughters, right? And so I always remember there was a church that I used to go to. The lady was calling up people one time. She was like, come up if you want to be a curse breaker. And that was something that I needed to be breaking, right? Because I was like, nobody can ever sexually violate my children. If they ever participate in that, I needed to be because they wanted to, not because somebody took advantage of them.
Right.
And to find out that every woman before me had been sexually abused, but nobody ever said anything. Nobody ever said, hey, this is what happens when somebody's about to sexually abuse you. This is the things you need to know. This is how you can protect yourself. No woman in my family was ever brave enough to speak up and say, these men are violating us. And most of the men that are violating us were married into our family because my family is full of women. We literally, you see, I got 2 girls. We just create women, right? So the men are coming in, married into the family and abusing your daughters and you're not speaking up. And then when somebody do speak up, you tell them, you can say that out loud. For the longest time, my mom used to tell me, you can't say that out loud. I said, well, you're going to have to die one day then, because guess what? I'm about to start speaking. It's not going to be pretty for any of y'all.
Wow. I got a question. How does, I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume, how has this, you speaking out affected your relationship with your mom as it stands today?
So in the beginning, it did, because in the beginning, my mom felt like I was attacking her. She felt like I was on this crusade to make her look bad. right? And that wasn't my deal. I'm like, that's what you have been doing to me as a young adult. Like, if I did anything, my mom would tell people I did something bad. So in my family, people knew me as Theresa the troublemaker. Like, they would come to my house and visit and be like, what did you do now? What are you up to? Because I was doing it because I really didn't have a sense of self-love for myself. So I really didn't care what kind of trouble I got into or what kind of things I did, because there wasn't a reason for me to really feel like I love myself, right? So in the beginning, my mom felt like I wanted to destroy her. But then God gave me this women's brunch, right? It started off as a brunch, but now it's a conference called Pray, Eat, Talk. And that was able to help me to really explain to my mom what I'm doing was not about just me and her. That it was other people, bigger, yes, than me and her. Because God started sending women to the conference who had been abused the same way. And so I knew then that it was not about me or her. And so I had to start explaining to my mom, this happened, right? And the sooner you can acknowledge that it happened, the sooner me and you can have a real conversation that it happened, the sooner I can help you understand that you too were a victim in this situation.
Wow.
So I feel like that's what changed our relationship.
Woo! Yeah. Well, I'm happy that y'all went through those transitions, because everybody does not have that story. So I'm glad that you're able to put that story out there so people can see that that is a possibility. But sometimes it's just not. No. You know, sometimes people are going to be upset about you speaking your truth. But I want to tell everybody, regardless of what you've been through, that is your truth to tell, and it's freeing not only for you but for other people. And people just have to understand that that's your journey. You know, it's not to out anybody else. You're simply telling your story, and it's helping other people get free. So shout out to you. Question from Markeisha: would you recommend hypnosis, and was this beneficial for you?
I feel like for me it was definitely scary, because I was seeing things that I didn't ever remember, like even with the war in my country, because her hypnosis wasn't just taking me to just my views, it was taking me to my life experiences. And so it was scary, because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to see this. Like, I don't want to have to see dead bodies, you know, because those are the things that we saw during the war. And so, but it was necessary for me, right? So you have to definitely talk to your therapist and find out, okay, what's going to work? Because I feel like everything is not for everybody, right? So something might work for me, but it might make me traumatize you even more, right? But for me, I feel like because I was so desperate to be free and just finally be seen as Theresa, like I still remember after my last session, and I want to say that my last session because I always got to go back and use a lot of tools that she gave me when I found myself in situations that I need to use the tools, right? But my last session, I still remember, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to move back to Richmond, right? And I moved back to Richmond, and I stayed in Richmond for a few months, and I went back to North Carolina to church. And when I walked into church, everybody kept saying to me, you look so pretty. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? I've been pretty.
Hello?
But they were finally able to see me. And they weren't saying you look pretty, like this physical that they were seeing. They were seeing the part of me that had been hidden behind my abuse for such a long time. And they were finally able to say, oh, wow, we see her.
Listen, right? Pack light, okay? That's what that means, okay? You shine a little different when you start.
Yes, definitely.
Listen, quick question, one more question about that. Do you remember, like with the hypnosis, are you conscious about what you're saying and remembering?
I don't think so. Because I don't feel like I remember everything that she wrote down. So when I came out, she would tell me the things that I wrote down. I'm like, sometimes I was like, I still don't remember those details. Okay. But if you're telling me that I'm saying it, right, she recorded the session. So that way I couldn't feel like she was making up things. Right. So then she would play it back to me saying, you know, she asked my permission, was it okay for her to record a session? And so that way I knew, I'm like, why? I mean, I'm saying it. So obviously it happened. Yes.
That's so fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. This is a mental wellness podcast. So I'm interested in hearing about people's journeys and what they're learning in therapy, what has worked for them, what they tried. And I've never asked anybody that's been through hypnosis what that was like. So thank you. My twin has a comment. She says, it truly takes a warrior spirit to no longer allow your trauma to determine your identity. That is a whole other level of healing and returning your power back to you. Much love to you all. Much love to all healing warriors. Come on, Taj, with a word.
Yes.
And I think it's so funny that she said that, because when you and I were talking about this episode, you said that you were reclaiming your power. Period. Bringing all the power back to us, away from any abuser, away from any trauma, away from any life obstacle. We calling them back the power. That need to go on a shirt. I'm gonna figure out how to word that.
Yeah.
We calling back our power, okay? This year and beyond. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Let's see. We got a couple people joining. Hey y'all, Miss Dummis. I think I'm saying it right. Dumas. I'm so sorry if I'm not. She says that's true. Best Jess, it says, I'm so sorry. Thank you for empathizing. My sister says yes to you breaking a cycle. Okay. Mrs. Dummis again says Dumas maybe says thank you for sharing. We don't talk about this. Listen, we gonna get to the get down on this podcast, y'all. I know these topics are deep. They can be sensitive, which is why we give trigger warnings in the beginning, but we have to have these conversations and rewrite our own narratives. You know, this mental wellness podcast is about, like she said, taking back your power, but also talking about how resilience has helped our souls rise again. And we're going to talk about some things toward the end of the interview too, about, you know, things that Theresa has done to keep her well, you know, what works for her. So I appreciate you sharing that. Serena, hey girl, she said it happens so much and no one wants to have these conversations, right? But we are, y'all. The Soul Tribe is we brave, we bold. Local Search says, thank you for answering. She says, wow, the details are appreciated. Thanks again. Absolutely. Hey, Tanya. This is, so Mr. Fobbs, his wife is on here. Thank you for joining. He says,
Okay.
I love that. She says, I'm also a survivor, wow, of sexual abuse. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. God and mental health go hand in hand. Hey, y'all gonna make me shout up in here. Thank you for sharing that, Miss Tanya. And thank you for listening. Appreciate that and engaging. This has been awesome, honey. We still got some things we need to touch on, okay? You were a single mother because you talked about your husband, you talked about your marriage, you talked about your children. This was something that I learned about you that blew my mind, because when you see your family, you guys are so tight-knit, beautiful family. I never knew that you had a child before you got married, all of that stuff. So that was inspiring to me, because I'm a single mother, like so many other women out there, right? So talk about your love story. You have touched on what it was like to share with your husband that you are a survivor of sexual abuse, which I love that you shared that, because so many people either don't have that conversation with their partners, or they do and it's not received well, or the man or husband or partner, whoever, doesn't really know how to lean in and be helpful with that. So that was a blessing for you to be able to receive that. And Brother Charles, shout out to Brother Charles. I want to talk to you more about your journey as a single mom and then being married. And after that, we'll talk more just about Black love. Go ahead, girl.
So as a single mom, so I had Tati my freshman year in college. And you know, a lot of people are like, oh my God, like when I first got to college, let me just say a lot of the girls were pregnant, because Chowan is in the country, right? So I felt like people were probably just having sex. And so I was like, oh, I am never going to be any of these girls on campus walking with a belly. The devil, it's a lot, right? But then as I'm going through all my stuff, I'm like, man, I started thinking at one point, I'm like, I remember I felt like I didn't really have a family, right? My mom, like a story that most people that didn't add in here, I'm blessed. I have now 3 moms thanks to Sean's mom, but I have 2 moms. My biological mom is still in Africa, right? And so that would make more sense when I keep saying my mom husband, because my mom who's here is my aunt, who's my mom oldest sister, but she's my mom. So you couldn't pin it any other way. That's my mom, right? I just happen to have 2 moms. Wow. And so my biological mom had me at a young age. And so I was like, I don't want to be that, because she obviously had to go through a lot of things too, right? As a single mom. And then it goes back to God being intentional. My mom, who is my mom here, hopefully it's making sense to you guys, is that when my biological mom had me, my mom also had a baby, but she lost that baby, right? And so in my country, it doesn't look right for the youngest sister to have a baby before the oldest sister. So my mom had to basically give me to her sister so that she can have a baby.
Wait, sis?
You don't want to make this a long podcast, Soleil, because it's going
No, you don't have to go into more detail, but just help me wrap my mind around what you just said. So
the oldest sibling must have a baby, technically, right, before the youngest sibling. My mom, who is my aunt, happened to be pregnant around the same time my mom was pregnant, but she happened to lose her baby, right? And so my mom had me, and they had to give me to my aunt.
Oh, wow.
But God,
Okay.
and that's how I knew God was still ordering my steps. Because had it not given me to my aunt, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation, right? Somebody who's going through the same thing with abuse would not understand that they will overcome, that they will get to that other side. No matter how long it takes them, the other side is still possible if they want it, right?
Wow.
So that was God still, again, ordering my steps. Because had my mom, baby stayed alive, there would have been no need for them to give me to her, right?
Wow.
Of course. So yeah,
Wow.
so then we go to me going to college and having and getting my freshman year, right? Getting pregnant. And I knew I was keeping my baby because now I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to have my own family. I'm
Tatiana
about to
said
have somebody.
Tatiana, her daughter, y'all said I wouldn't be here. Sorry, just wanted to add that. You ain't gotta apologize, girl.
I knew that I was going to, I was like, okay, this is it, God. I'm about to have my family.
Can y'all still hear me and see me? Uh-oh.
So, are you frozen?
We back, I think.
Okay,
Y'all,
you're spinning. There you go.
All right, y'all let
back.
us know down below if you can see and hear us at the same time, because sometimes it be glitching and all of that stuff. You let us know in the comments.
Okay.
Let me see what they say real quick. Child, I got to get off Instagram and do an actual podcast.
No, seriously, you do. That way it will just be easier. You can always upload it on Instagram, upload it on YouTube and things like that.
Yes. So I have all the episodes on YouTube, but sometimes like Instagram will like glitch and there's nothing I can do about it, even in editing. Child. So we gonna get it. We gonna get it right. Okay. Tati says we good. Go ahead, Theresa.
Okay. Yeah. So I found out I was pregnant with Tati my freshman year, probably like my halfway through my freshman year. I knew I was keeping my baby. I knew that I wanted my child. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the family that I always wanted, because, when you're young and you're pregnant, you think it's the cutest thing in the world. Because, oh my God, I'm about to have a belly and all of this stuff. Like, oh my God, people are going to be asking me, when are you having a baby? What does it do? But then people started saying hurtful things to me and my family, right? They started saying like first of all, my one thing, they wanted me to have my baby and send her back home. So that was not an option for me. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. People started saying, oh, how are you going to survive now? Who's going to take care of the baby? How are you going to, what are you going to become? So I know a lot of times, like I like to say, I like how God likes to have the final say and laugh, because I know he's laughing at as people are watching me still growing, because this restaurant is not even the appetizer of my life, right?
Hello.
It's literally you walk in and somebody give you a sample. That's what this is, right? And so people, they wasn't as supportive as I thought they will be, right? And so I'm like, it's okay. I'm still going to keep my child. I'm going to have my baby. I had Tati. I went back to school and I would bring her to class with me, right? She was very quiet in class. People used to literally look for Tati to come to class. They used to be like, you didn't bring her to class today? I'm like, no, Tati's now in daycare, right? But I was a single mom, and I say that I was a single mom because even though I was with Tati's, whatever you want to call her, I'm just going to say the person that God used to help me make Tati, because that does not make that person a father, because Tati's father lives here where we live, right? And so even though we were living in the same house, I was still a single mom. I was the one waking up. I was the one doing everything. I was the one taking care of my child. I was the one changing her pamper when she get wet. I was the one making sure that she fed. I was the one taking her to the doctors. So I was the single mom in a situation where a lot of people be like, well, you're in a relationship. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm still a single mom. I just happen to live in a house with somebody who might as well just say, it's not even my roommate. It's a statement, because I'm the one paying the bill.
Wow.
So I was a single mom, right? And it was the most challenging things for me to do as a single mom, was to, I wanted to make sure that Tati was afforded the same opportunities as children who was growing up in two parents' homes. So I worked really hard, right? I put Tati, I remember when I was pregnant with Tati, I would see the Garter School commercial, and I'm like, man, I want her to go to that school. It looks so nice. I worked so hard, I put Tati in the Garter School, right? And I would come in there, and they knew I was a single mom, but they embraced me. They never treated me any differently. And Tati was like 2.5 when I met Charles. So that changed really fast. God changed it really fast. But when I met Charles, I was not going to introduce him to my child until I knew that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. Because at the end of the day, you being in a relationship with me and meeting Tati means that you're in a relationship with Tati too. So you can't come breaking up with me, because now you're breaking up with Tati, right? So now had to explain to Tati where you going, I'm not going to do that. So I had to, like,
And
my
you wanted
question to him was
to protect her too because of the things that you've been through. Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure that her heart was protected. And so for the longest time, a lot of people did not know that Tati was not Charles' biological daughter. They just saw us as a unit.
I had not a clue, child.
They just saw us as a unit. And then one year at my prayer talk conference, the topic was something completely different. Mm-hmm. But God made me say that out loud. And I'm like, why are you making me say this out loud? But that's because there was another woman there who said she's been walking around and so afraid to tell people that she was a single mom. And that was able to free her because she was like, I did not know this. I didn't know that you were a single mom, right? Because Tati was always well-dressed. She was always kept, like nobody could look at her and say, she's growing up in a single home. Because guess what? The one thing I wanted Tati to understand was that you were needed, you were wanted, and you definitely changed the direction of where my life could have gone had you not been here.
Right.
Right. And so therefore, I was going to do everything in my ability to make sure that my child was able to do everything that I thought was good for her. Mm-hmm. Right. At the time. And so, as a single mom, it was challenging. I feel like a lot of times people don't give single moms a lot of credit. You know, they think, oh, well, you know, you asked for this, you got the baby, what's the problem? You know, they think like somebody sending you a little child support weekly. If they do send it,
if they don't want that child.
And that's a big if,
okay.
Right? It's enough for you to sustain, but it takes more than that. And so when Charles said to me, no, I'm here to stay, right? And I was like, okay. And I introduced Tati to him. And Tati is like, after a couple of days, started calling him dad. Wow. It was the strangest thing we've ever seen. But I knew it was God, you know? And that's basically, like, I felt like my single mom journey it was hard for the 2.5 years that I was a single mom. Because once Charles stepped in, I was no longer...
It's powerful how transparent you are, number one, just in general, but also you have a young adult child. She's here. She's heard your story. Oh, she's 18. She knows your story. She's empowered by your story. I think Tati also is going to know too, like what wise decisions to make. Because she said in the comments here right now, I've been here and seen it all, and I've loved every minute of watching my mom grow. So, you know, she knows what it looks like to be empowered. She knows what resilience looks like, because all throughout your story, I'm just hearing resilience. Like, you took a child with you to class. You went back to school after having a baby, you know, regardless what people were saying. So I love that. And I love that your daughter just, you know, you're not making it, you putting everything out there. So she doesn't have to make some quote unquote mistakes. Her journey is going to be her own. But she, you know, I think she's going to have a lot of wisdom to take with her and to share with other people, because she's super wise. I be hearing her give advice to people and she's agreeing. She says, I definitely do. So I love that. And I think that also is a testament to, you know, what is going to free more people, more relationships, how, you know, it shows parents how they can talk to their children about things when it's age appropriate, make it age appropriate, you know, and just freeing them by freeing yourself, not having to live, you know, your challenges by yourself and keeping them in your heart, making you angry, making you less of a better parent because you're so upset about things that you won't speak about. So I think just transparency and understanding that you have to have wisdom and share certain things with your children so they don't make the same mistakes, you know? So love that. She says she is very open. I'll be taking in all the notes, and I love that for you. That's a blessing, Tati. Super, super blessing. Okay, I want to talk to you about, well, I'll just share something, and then we're going to talk about Elegant Cuizines. So I've known Theresa for about 3.5 years. She used to make...
I'm an old Samar because it was his first birthday cake.
Yeah, so my son is about to be 4, and I met her right before his first birthday. Our friend Shanika introduced us to each other because he needed a cake. And I was, you know, just seeing many different versions of you now, because I've been to your home, I know your family, your kids, so our relationship has developed. So some of this stuff that you're saying, I can attest to it. Like, I see the joy, I see the goofy side, I see the professional side, like super passionate, you know. But when I learned your story, it just made me appreciate you so much more, because it's like, girl, you've been through all of that. And then some of the things that you just shared today, I didn't even know, you know, and like you said, to still have that joy. And now we know that that joy comes from God and from your healing and, you know, your journey. You had to go through that stuff. And like my sister said earlier, you being a warrior and just pressing forward and having that resiliency to be where you are now. Having said all of that, you know, well, I'm gonna add this on too, you know, you have love now. You know, you've been very transparent with your partner of 10 years. You know, you were a single mom. And I think that is important for you to share too, that, yeah, I was a single mom and I found a healthy love, somebody that respects me, my journey, my children. You guys now have a child together, big, happy family. You know, you guys are healing and growing and working and having thriving businesses together. Those are the narratives that I am interested in putting on a platform such as this, because people need to understand, yes, you are going to go through some things designed specifically for you and your journey, but that does not mean because sometimes we hit rock bottom or a tough time that we can't rise again. That's what this platform is about. So I want to shed light on all of that before we touch on the last part of the interview, because we're going to go through some things, y'all. Yeah. But I love how Theresa's journey has just allowed her to evolve, you know, through so much and just have joy telling the story. So I hope that this touches the right people. If you're watching a replay, definitely put hashtag replay down in the comments with some sunshine emojis, because I want to know that this has touched people. And last thing I wanted to ask you about was two things. What do you do? So earlier I asked you that and you share your titles and different things that you do, but what things keep you well? What do you do for your mental health?
So I feel like for me now, I definitely started doing like, I guess you can call it self-care, where I feel like I'm always entertaining people, like what I'm having like a sit down with my sisters, or like, you know, we're doing group things. But now I just started taking like some time for myself, right? So I would just take like, usually like I told everybody now, like especially on Sundays, like don't bother me. I love y'all, but unless somebody is like physically dying, just let me have Sunday just so I can just have that for myself. One of the big things I want to do is that I want to travel by myself. I have been doing my best to convince my husband. And when I say travel, I don't mean in the States, I mean out the country. And I feel like that will be very liberating for me, because I've been somebody's mom at such a young age. I got married to my husband in my mid-20s. So I've been somebody's wife, you know, and so therefore I feel like I've been somebody everything. And now that I'm free to be me, I want to do something for me. And I think just traveling outside the country by myself, obviously I will be safe, is going to be something that is going to be so liberating, because I get to just be like, I just need to do it. And I feel like, and another thing that I feel like I do is I'm never afraid to ask Charles for what I need. Like I feel like a lot of the time people are afraid to ask for what they need in relationships, but then that goes to your healing, right? If you're so used to doing it all on your own, that's also a part of trauma, and people don't realize that, because no one is supposed to do it all on their own. But I'm never afraid to say, babe, can you make me breakfast this morning? And he'll make it, you know. So you definitely, so like not being afraid to ask for what I want is definitely something that's helped me too.
I love that. Yes. Is there anything else that you do?
I feel like that basically is. I mean, cooking all the time. I can't really think about much that I do now other than that, you know. That's basically what
I love it. Ask for what you need, period. End of story. Drop the mic. Love that. So you are now a restaurant owner. I was blessed enough to be able to go with my honey over on Valentine's Day.
Yes, honey.
I was at the soft opening, baby. Let me tell you, that food was so good. Girl, I was scraping like little people. Listen, I was scraping the dag on to-go box, trying to get the last of that oyster palava, child. It was so good. Oh my God. Your grand opening for your restaurant is when? The 25th.
February 25th, yeah.
That's what, like less than a week or a week?
Yeah, maybe a little few days before the week.
If you are in Richmond, Virginia, just go, okay? And also, if you're not, child, she didn't already had somebody travel from a whole different city. The food is that good. It's fresh. Let me give her a commercial real quick. It is fresh. Elegant Cuizines is fresh. The food is so colorful. She don't cook with salt, dairy, or what's the other one? Or sugar, right? What's the other one?
Yeah. We use agave, no sugar.
Baby, she don't need it. We was eating the food. It was a vegan mac and cheese bite.
Girl, I feel like that's gonna be a top seller off the rack.
Baby,
because the man
that's the one. That's on the starter menu. But I said I'm gonna just go just to get that, just to eat. It is so good, and it's so like crispy, but then you cut in the middle and it's like melting, and you eat it. It's like creamy and crunchy, and I love creamy and crunchy combos. Oh, that does it for me. Baby, you don't need no salt, baby. You don't need no salt. It was so good. Like the texture, the way it looked, it was presented like you're going to get a beautifully plated meal, okay? And that was my starter. And I also had
The
oyster mushroom. So the palava is a spice, right?
So the palava is actually a soup
Oh.
that I turn into a spice.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I was about to go home and Google palava spice. That
So
must be
we
from
have
Nigeria.
no. So we have a
Baby.
soup called palava soup, and I was like, I wonder what this would be like if it was a spice. So I dried out the soup and I created. So I used like this dehydration machine, dried it out, and then created a spice out of it.
Child, she done made her own spice, girl. Let me tell you, it was so good. Like, it tastes like fried chicken. It looks like a fried chicken thigh on your plate, and when you eat it, it's seasoned just like, in my opinion, with the palava flavors and stuff. It also tastes like chicken. If you close your eyes and eat it, it was so good, man. Me and him was fighting at the end of the night. Not fighting, but like, I was like, you want the rest of that cheesy mac and cheese, the vegan? He was like, go ahead and eat it. I know you're going to eat it. But I saved him a little corner. It was so good.
Yeah, it's going to be a top seller. The people that came yesterday from the Hampton Roads, they was like, the husband kept saying, ain't no way this vegan. I'm like, it's vegan. He was like, ain't no way this vegan. I'm like, you don't have to say it again. It's vegan.
I don't even know how you found a vegan cheese that tastes good, because let's just put this on the record. And I'm going to say it. You ain't got to say it. Vegan cheese, I have not found one that I really like. I don't know what she
That's
used.
not true. Vegan cheese can taste good when it's spiced right. I feel like a lot of times people just throw it in. They don't put any kind of.
You got to doctor
it up. They don't put any kind of herbs in it, because you got to remember that it doesn't really have a real flavor, right? Because you're using so much. Like, if you're using the right one, it should have like stuff like pea protein, those things in it. So you're gonna have to be the one to create the flavor of the.
Well, whatever flavor you did, baby, that was it. That was the one. So talk to them about Elegant Cuizines. Tell them anything that you want them to know about it.
Elegant Cuizines is going to be grand opening on February the 25th. It's ran by my husband and I, my amazing husband. I feel like a lot of times people are always like giving me credit, or they're doing articles on me or putting me on like this very high platform. And I'm like, if y'all can only see the muscle behind Elegant Cuizines, you will understand that it's not even me. You will understand that my husband literally took his entire savings account and invested into Elegant Cuizines because he believed in it.
That is the second time I have heard that story. You and another one of my friends that's local to Richmond that's doing really well. We're both single mothers. I had no idea she was a single mom either. Found a husband, got married. Y'all husbands love y'all and believe in y'all so much that they both took their savings and invested into y'all's businesses. Yes. That blows my mind. So if you're single, just know it can happen for you.
It definitely can happen. And so Charles definitely did that for the business, and he believed in the business, that he's like, okay, I will work, front of the house. His passion is definitely hair cutting. He's amazing at cutting hair. He cuts my hair. And so our goal is not that he's going to be in a restaurant forever. In the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to have his own barbershop, and he's going to be there. And then, he'll get to follow his purpose. And because I'm big on people actually walking in the purpose that God has given it. And I'm grateful that my husband is taking time to help me to pursue my purpose and my passion. And that's the difference between when you're not in a single situation anymore. And I would say this one last thing, just to give Charles more credit, but the single, like how I recognized that, oh, wow, I really was single. When we had Tracy, at nighttime, Charles would work and I would be sleeping, and Tracy was crying. He would be like, babe, you can sleep. Where's the bottle? And he was so hands-on that I didn't have to do, I had a C-section. So the first 3 months, I did not do anything but lay there, because that man waited on me hand and foot. And I was like, so this is what it feels like when somebody truly loves you and truly supports you, as opposed to what I had before. But again, I wouldn't trade what I had before, because if I didn't have that bad experience, I would not appreciate the man that Charles is. And so I'm definitely grateful for what I had before that made me appreciate what I have now.
Girl, yes. I just love this. I love every single episode I do. It just sheds light so much on the individual, but also just these lessons and what you've learned and how resiliency has played a part. And we talk about Black love so much on this show, man, podcast. It might be a show one day. I don't know. That just came out. I don't know. Here go my sister talking about praise him. This gives me hope. Period.
You gotta have hope, okay?
I love it. Oh, I'm so excited. Tajay also said, I'm so excited for this. Us vegan and vegetarian folks need more quality places like this. And let me tell y'all too, she has food for carnivores. She got food for vegans. She got food for people in between. Me, I just like
vegetarians. They're all gonna be able to eat. Everybody can eat. But the one amazing thing is that Elegant Cuisines is a dairy-free restaurant. So nothing in the building is cooked with dairy. There's not a single dairy in our building.
And it's plants, like the stuff that she creates for vegans and vegetarians, and even for the carnivorous people. It's real food. It's not gonna be nothing processed for the vegan stuff. Like, it's real food. It's so good, y'all. And
everything is cooked from scratch.
Everything is cooked from scratch. Her staff was so nice. Nilo was so sweet. Her husband was so sweet. They were attentive. So definitely check it out. It's a Black-owned business, okay? You definitely want to get into it. And it's done with excellence. So thank you, Theresa. This has been amazing. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on here. Thank you for continuing to do this. Thank you for letting your light shine, right? Because it's so important when someone is on the other side where you are letting their light shine, is that a lot of times people don't realize that as you're listening to these stories, you're taking on a lot, right? And so it's important for us to recognize that what you're doing, it might look small to someone, but you know me, I always be sending you pictures of people who are like up there, because I'm like, oh, this gonna be you. Like, like I know this gonna be you in a couple of years, right? And so, and I believe that in every sense of the word. And so I'm truly grateful that you allow your light to shine. I'm truly grateful that you stayed on your healing journey, to be open to be in such a space, because it took your healing journey for you to be able to sit here and say, okay, let me open this space to other people. So we thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Look, and still on the journey, okay? Because I'm trying to hone in my own mental health.
And that's okay. We are, life is a journey. So we were supposed to ever be evolving. And if we ever get confused and think that we have stopped journey, then we are dead. And that's just what that is.
That's it. Thank you. I received the flowers. I appreciate it. This was wonderful. Thank you for being trying to call.
Did I lose? Okay, no. I was like, did I lose you? I can hear you.
Okay, so I had a call coming in. But I was just saying thank you for your transparency. One thing that I love about an Aries child, we're gonna tell it how it is, good, bad, ugly, and different. And the older
you don't have to take it.
The older we get, with the more tact we learn. I think that's about that. That's the part we have to learn with our journey. But that's what happens when you become more evolved and more mature, and you're actually learning from what you go through. You're learning from those hard traits that you really don't like about yourself. You got to kind of hone it in a little bit more. One thing about an Aries, you're going to love us or hate us. But when you evolve and mature, people going to listen to what we got to say once we start embracing that honey. Yes. My mama always said, you catch me with honey, child. And I still have my days where I'm trying to figure that one out. But thank you for the transparency. So thank you for this episode, guys. I'm going to stay on for a little bit. And we just want to give Theresa her flowers. Y'all go check out Elegant Cuizines. Follow her at Chef Headen. Elegant Cuizines is spelled with a Z and not an S. Thank you, Theresa, and appreciate you for being a thriver. Thank you.
Is it too late to join the Richmond? Yes, it is.
Next year, Taja. Next year.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an amazing day.
You're welcome. So how do I get off here? Do I hit the X?
Yes, hit the X. Okay. I will be talking to you soon. Y'all, man, listen, Soul Seed Conversations, we are going places. This is episode 17. Thank you and shout out to the Soul Tribe family for always showing up, for always being so engaging, for asking questions, for giving flowers, for sharing. Please share this podcast, share our page. Let your friends know to go get them some affirmation apparel. I am wearing our loved affirmation necklace and also our Pack Light affirmation tee in black. It also comes in white as well. We have hats, we have things for children, we have jewelry for children as well. So we create affirmation and mental wellness apparel for resilient humans on the grow. We empower you to thrive on your best days and in between. And one of the ways that we do that is with this mental wellness podcast called Soul Seed Conversations. So if you wonder why we're doing this, that's why we're doing this. I hope this episode with Theresa has inspired you. I'm re-inspired, and I knew some of this story already. So if you have a story that you want to share, a resilient story, definitely email us at mystory@soulriseessentials.com. Talking to TikTok over here too. Shout out to YouTube, because I know y'all watching this. If somebody shared this video with you, it's because they love you. All right. Tap into the Soul Tribe family, and we will see y'all next month for episode 18. Stay well, be well. Shout out to the Soul Tribe. Peace, y'all.